I was born on September 26, 1951 in Huma, Tonga, Dapo. My grandma, Sarah, was a midwife, so she came from Riha, Ha'abai, to help my mom deliver me. When I was born, when I turned 4, I wanted to go to the Wesleyan Primary School close by, but my mom and my dad couldn't afford it. So we ended up walking to one and another village.
My Aunt Talini moved in next door to us in Homa. So my cousins, Winnie and Annie, would walk with me and my siblings to school, which was in Ha'akame. From Homa to Ha'akame, it was about 1.5 miles. One time when we were walking, my sister Pauline hit my cousin Weenie and she started crying. I threw my sister in the bushes and she got up so mad that she laid in the middle of the road and yelled, "I'm gonna lay here so a truck will run me over and Mom will beat you up, Hilamani." We all just kept walking. So she eventually just got up and caught up to us. By the time I was a deacon, I transferred to Leahona High School, which was 2 miles away from our home in Homa. But after about half a year in 7th grade, my family had to get ready and move to the States.
When I got to the States, I was 15 years old. Me and my siblings went to Horace Mann Junior High. But since I only did half of 7th grade in Tonga, they made me repeat it in America. It was probably good since English was my biggest hurdle. I was a pretty fast runner in Tonga. So even though my brothers were into boxing and playing rugby, I joined the track team in school. We all graduated from West High School. Then after graduation, I worked with my family doing Polynesian shows, dancing with my cousins and siblings. We even did one show all the way in Great Britain. My first time back to Tonga was to serve in the Nuku'alofa Tonga mission. In my last area in Ha'ateho, I went to the stake patriarch and got a patriarchal blessing before coming back home to Utah. I would perform a few more Polynesian shows when I got back, but eventually we wanted to do our own thing. So me and my brother started a band with my cousin Unga. We didn't have a name, so we were just known as the Fonua Boys. We mostly played rock and roll music at different bars, but the 2 main places we played were the Beach Boy restaurant and the Hawaiian restaurant every weekend. When I was about 23, our band got a big gig. This rich club owner hired us to play at his club in Hartford, Connecticut. He had another Hawaiian show at another venue where my cousin Annie Finau was performing. She was about 20 years old, and the club owner asked her to marry him. Even though she initially said yes, she changed her mind. The club owner got so mad, he threatened to fire all of them if she didn't marry him. My Aunt Talini quickly flew me out there to bring her back to Utah so she wouldn't have to marry him.
One year, our band was playing at an LDS conference dance in Salt Lake. I saw a pretty girl and I asked around who she was. My friends told me her name was Lolohea, but she's just visiting from Hawaii. She's staying at Saya Nayata's house. The next day, I called the Nayata home and asked to talk to her. I asked what she was doing and she said they just finished saying their family prayers. So I said, "Did your prayer go up to heaven or did it just hit the ceiling and fall back down?" And she said, "Only the prayers from Homa go up and hit the ceiling and come back down." While we dated, I stayed with my brother Siliva and his wife Emily until I got married at 26 years old. Once we got married, we got an apartment nearby where Siliva and Emily was at with their kids. I liked working with my hand and I thought I would someday be a pilot and fly airplanes. But my dad told us kids that we need someone to help fix up a lot of the stuff in both our home and the car because it was so expensive. So my brother Ben and I went to school to be a mechanic and he was an electrician contractor to help out the family. I eventually graduated from Utah Technical College of Salt Lake, which is now known as Salt Lake Community College, with my associate in automotive technician while also fixing up my own car. I traveled a lot with my wife and oldest son, Deiko, and a little bit more with my oldest daughter, Kalo. But by the time I was 34, we had 6 expensive kids. Deiko, 6, Galo 5, Elone 4, Gina 3, Alma 2, and Annie was 7 months. Lucky for us, my parents decided to leave on a mission to Tonga and asked us to live in their house right in downtown Salt Lake City. We eventually moved out and lived with my wife's family, the Nayatas, for about a year, where my son Saya was born and named him after my brother-in-law, Saya Nayata. We found a cheap home out in Magna where we moved to, and then somehow had another 2 kids, Imela and Irina. I was working at Easton Aluminum, where I got aluminum sports equipment and gave some baseball bats to my Tu'one nephews that played baseball. I got my sons some bows and arrows, which wasn't the best idea since my 14-year-old son, Elone, accidentally shot my 8-year-old son, Saya, in the back. I didn't see any of this, and it wasn't bad enough I needed to take him to the hospital. I just heard about it from my Ba'u kids who tend to break everything in my house. I built up so much patience with these kids that they called me to serve in multiple bishoprics, both in Balangi wards and Tongan wards, including the first Tongan Magna branch where I was the branch president. By the time I turned 44, Deiko was 16, Galo 15, Elona 14, Gina 13, Alma 11, Eni 9, Saya 8, Imela 6, and our baby, Irina, was 1 year old.
I was able to take my wife on a little trip to visit my cousin Andy Kaminsky in Pennsylvania. It was nice because they were able to take us around to visit a lot of church historical sites throughout Ohio. Later, I eventually opened up my own shop called Hea's Automotive, named after my wife Lolo Hea, but most people had read it as HEA Automotive, which we got used to.
I later got called to serve in the YSA Tongan Ward Bishopric in West Valley, where a few of my kids and nieces and nephews attended.
By the time I was 54, Deiko's 27, married with 2 kids, H3 and Lolo. Galo's 26 and married. Elona is 25 and married. And Gina and Alma had just got off their missions and in college. Annie was still working, and Sai had just graduated high school at age 18. My 2 youngest, Imela and Irina, were wanting to move out and explore their high school years living with their older siblings in Utah County. My last church calling was to serve as the second counselor in the stake presidency in the Salt Lake, Utah Tongan stake, where I served for 5 months before I passed away on July 11, 2011 at age of 59. I'm grateful I got to meet a few more grandkids and in-laws before I passed away. I will be turning 74 years old this year. From all 9 of my kids, we currently have 25 grandkids with 2 more on the way. Some of the last words that I left with my family while in hospice was to keep their covenants. There's nothing more important to me than that. Just like in the 3rd book of John, chapter 1, verse 4, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth.